What started out as a quiet week may well turn into a big week for news when it comes to one Mr. John Rahm. Will we see team news dropping this week? Plus, we've just seen the LIV 2024 schedule. We've had a little bit of Poulter time and Westy time in Camp Confidential. Plus, we're going to chat a little bit about the Sony and the Dubai Invitational. This is, of course, Golf Lovers Unite at Golf Dad at UK. And I'm going to bring on two of my favorite people, two people that I would throw under the bus for $1 and a sandwich, according to people on Twitter. And I've got to confirm that that is absolutely bloody true because I love a sandwich. Ben, Jay, how are you boys? You're looking very charming today. You all right?
Well, I'm very happy. I must say that I think why we work is that we annoy different people. I don't know if we make anyone happy, but like as we get comments about me, we get comments about Jay, we get comments about you. But this week was the first time we got a proper comment about you, and the guy that went on you, I get on with him, but he went in on you big time.
Mate, I say all the time. I said it off air just a second ago. You got to appeal to everyone, yeah? And you got to treat trolls with, equity and equal respect and love, Some people are going to be annoyed by my smug, handsome face and my high-quality banter and just, frankly, probably this little annoying beard that I've got. And some people are going to be annoyed by you and Jay. It's called equality. So I'm bloody in for it. I love it. So thank you to Metaton Opal for, frankly, just having a bit of banter. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. So welcome. See you this week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Jay, how are you, my friend? You're looking well today. You're looking smiley. I know it's early where you are. You must be a morning person, mate.
No, I'm definitely not a morning person. But look, we got the day off. It's Martin Luther King Day here in the United States. Obviously, MLK stood for equality, nonviolence. I'm trying my best to practice that, especially when it comes to the trolls and the haters, and particularly Rory McIlroy. I'm trying to be a little bit more equitable towards him. I'm trying to be not as violent as I usually am dealing with some of his antics. But
mate, I've got to stop you. People who don't like you, you've just almost equated yourself to Martin Luther King on trying to deal with Rory. I love it.
No, look, I suggest this to everyone that they all need to equate themselves to MLK. Here's the reason, because look, equality is a very, very important thing. We could sort of go into some of the woke stuff that's sort of kind of gone off a little bit too far in one direction here in the United States. That's sort of a story for another day. But nonviolence, equality are very, very important things that we all need to keep in mind. And I think this is an important day to do that. So I would highly recommend that to everyone, hater or not. That's something everybody needs to keep in mind every single day of their lives.
On MLK, which sounds a really weird thing to be saying in a golf podcast, I remember my wife and I went to Washington for our honeymoon. We did Washington, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Savannah, Atlanta, all down the East Coast. I don't think enough in the UK is kind of understood or known about it. It was actually a real good experience doing that and doing the monument. And it was really weird. It was quite a brisk, cold end of March day, and it was like 1 degree going up into Martin Luther King, and it was very, very. It was a good thing to do. I enjoyed it. I think maybe in the UK we don't quite understand exactly how all that went down.
Yep, it's what I'm here for. So
educating the small angles, my friend. This is what we respect about you. It's what we respect about you, and you are indeed the water to Rory McIlroy's 18th hole tee shot. So we're going to get to that in a little bit. But before we do that, we've been talking about putting a meetup on. We're thinking about getting together and just, shooting the breeze, maybe shooting some wedges and analysing Ben's swing as we do so. And we're actually going to open that, I think, to our Golf Lovers United brand ambassadors, to our golf lovers, to our people in our fan zone pretty early. So if you want to get involved in that, and you can experience the other benefits that we put on there as well and join our other fans in our fan zone, you've got to do that over at glugc.com/support. That's glugc.com/support. And of course, if you enjoy this podcast and if you enjoy my woke sociopath face, you can watch this over on YouTube, or you can listen over on your podcast app of choice. Now, we had a bit of a busy week, actually. I thought it was going to be quite a quiet one. We didn't think there was going to be much live news. We think that we're probably going to get a bit of Rahm team news, as we've just heard over the last hour or two, perhaps this weekend. Let's start with that one. Ben, you brought a name to the table, and then you told us that you think we're going to get some news sooner rather than later. So give us a bit of insight on that, mate, please.
Well, I'll follow my sword first of all. I also gave you the name last week of Adam Scott going into the Rippers, but there appears to be a big 180 there. So having been very sure that might happen, it feels unlikely now. And then we did discuss, actually, bizarrely, on that Tony Finau and John Rahm pod, we discussed Wyndham Clark. And obviously, one of the good things that LIV can do is attract major winners, because that way it's players playing in the majors. And it looks, based on the update from LIV Golf Updates, who's been money for the last couple of years on their inside information, that Wyndham Clark will be joining our good friend John Rahm in his team with Kieran Vincent and with Caleb Stewart. Is it Stewart? How are we saying that?
Surratt.
Obviously,
he's
go on.
Yeah, he plays college golf here in the United States. He's been at Tennessee. He's been really big on the sort of amateur golf scene here in the U.S. Really high-level player that it was only a matter of time before he turned professional and made some noise in the professional ranks. So he's kind of in that, Puj, Chikara sort of realm, sort of in that same sort of college amateur player, high-level player. Look, LIV is it's something that they need to continue to do. They need to continue to attract young talent and sort of get them improved and sort of release them out into the world. So
that leaves us then, doesn't it? So we look at the teams. Most teams complete, and we've already confirmed the rumours and suspicions. It's going to be 13 teams with 2 floating players making 54. We know that completes John's team with Legion 13. Legion 13 or Legio 13 is the actual name originally. If we take that as the team there, we know that the Japanese player, my God, his name's slipped my brain again, is going to go into the Ironheads, meaning that we need one in the Rippers and one in the Cleeks. Everything you and I are hearing, Jay, is that it's going to be Lucas Herbert. I'll wait to see you, and everything you and I had heard for 5 weeks was Adam Scott. We'd heard Adam Scott for 5 weeks, but now it looks like that probably won't be the case, and it's going to be Lucas Herbert, who's a fantastic player, great reputation, and fit superbly into that team with Leash, Smith, and Jones. So it leaves you one player you need now. You need a player in the Cleeks, and you need 2 players as the 2 roaming players. Now, I don't want to address the 2 roaming players because there's contract negotiations going on, but Cleeks, it's the first time in a long time I'm not actually hearing anything solid. I'm hearing lots of rumours, but nothing solid. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's kind of where I've been for a while, and this is something that I mentioned on Twitter. It's something that we touched on last week too, is that we already know that there's players on the way. It's just a matter of negotiations at this point. Like there's going to be players like, Terrell Hatton's certainly been out there. Tony Finau's been out there. Look, we've gotten word about certain players being in negotiations. To me, Tony Finau seemed like a slam dunk, a month ago, just because everything made sense. You can't really account for, other situations, like the situation with his lawsuit that may be impacting his decision-making process, and then also maybe asking for more than LIV felt he was worth. These are all things that are part of the process. It's part of the reason why these things can break down at any particular point. It's part of the reason why, like I said, I'm kind of done with the speculation. I just want the rosters to be finalized here in the next week or two, so that we can move on and we can start talking about the actual season, start analyzing the teams, and sort of move on with our lives at that point.
And also, Jay, I actually think it's the best thing for PGA Tour. I've said this said it a couple of weeks ago. I think the very best thing for PGA Tour, and I enjoyed this week's event. There were moments where it's a bit weird. We'll talk about that Yuan drop. But I actually think the best thing for PGA Tour is going, okay, LIV started. That's LIV's players. Let's crack on. We know who we've got. They know who they've got. Will there be an agreement? What will agreement look like? Who knows? But at least we kind of know our rosters. I think that's the best thing that can happen for the PGA Tour is them to have LIV started, LIV's rosters set, and away we go. I think that'd be great for all golf, no matter whether you like PGA, LIV, both, neither, whatever you like. I think it'd be really, really good. Just feels for me, the loser in all this again is the DP World Tour. Outside of that Rolex event, those fields are weak.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I do think that this is something that it could be something. It's something that I floated out there on Twitter. How sometimes I think these moves are sort of last minute, just to sort of keep that mystery out there for as long as possible and make the PGA Tour sweat over. Oh my God, are we going to lose? Are we going to lose this player? Oh my God, are we going to lose this player? And I know for a fact behind the scenes they're scrambling. Anytime a name is like, oh, this guy's definitely going, they are scrambling to like see what they can do to keep that person. And it's kind of funny to me that's kind of what's going on behind the scenes. But it is what it is. We've been going through this now for a year and a half. I think that we're very close to sort of finalizing everything. The PGA Tour can start moving forward with their schedule. LIV is going to move forward with their schedule. And it sounds like the merger is probably going to happen sometime in the next few months. So then we can sort of move on and really start talking about the future of golf, which is something that gets me really excited.
Yeah, just on that point, assume Finau, assume Herbert, even if it was someone like Adam Scott, they're having the discussions, it becomes publicised, the rumour mill starts churning, Tyrrell Hatton, so on and so forth. We start to see that bubbling away at the surface. The PGA Tour scrambling, trying to do what they can to keep that person. Have we got any insight into actually what they are doing? Like, what are they able to promise? What are they able to do? What are they trying? What's that situation?
Sure.
Have you got any insight on that?
Sure. I mean, it's very clear that, like, look, there two of the names that have been very, very heavily rumored, last year were Xander Schauffele and Keegan Bradley. It was like as soon as they were like, oh yeah, these two are definitely going over the LIV. You saw them with DraftKings sponsorship, which DraftKings is directly tied to the PGA Tour. You see a lot of these guys are getting additional sponsorship deals directly from PGA Tour partners. That's sort of one part of it. That's definitely part of the equation. The other part of it is, they all have these, charities that they, foundations where they can get money funneled to them. That's a little more, it's not, it's more sort of under the table rather than like something that's like a taxable event. So, it's things like that I know have been happening with, a few different players that I've been told directly sometimes by these players specifically. So it's definitely something that's out there, and I think that it's something. Look, the PGA Tour has to do whatever. They've been in this battle for 2 years trying to keep talent. I totally understand why they felt the need to do these things. Just think about how much better of a golf world we would be in now if 2 years ago the PGA Tour and Monahan and all those guys at the PGA Tour just taken the phone call and started to, if they could see into the future and be like, you know what, instead of all of this drama we've had the last 2 years, if we could see into the future, let's just have these discussions, knowing what's potentially coming, so that we could have avoided this altogether. That's my biggest gripe with the PGA Tour and its leadership, is that like any competent CEO or like competent leader would have seen this coming. Like, we were all talking about this two years ago, like, oh, this is something you're gonna have to figure out. And they totally botched it. There's no getting around it, and it's something that makes me very, very upset that they didn't handle this the right way, and then they started to make it this like moral thing. They dragged the 9/11 families into it. Like, this whole thing could have been avoided, and that's one of my biggest frustrations about this whole thing.
They certainly acted like the incumbent, and you see it in so many industries. In fact, you see it in pretty much every industry. You see it with challenger banks challenging the financial institutions. You see it across the startup world. You see it in any any sort of market that's ripe and ready for disruption, you see that with the incumbents anyway. You generally see them dismissive, offensive, poo-pooing it. Oh dear, we probably need to start considering this. And it's a very common thing. It's just, this is amplified so much because it's on the public stage. You've got a raving fan base one way or the other. You've got PGA Tour fans, you've got LIV fans, you've got golf fans in general that just want things to settle down, and then you've got all the players that want all ships to rise, and everything's generally, let's be honest, things have got better for the players in terms of the purses, for example. So it's, the trajectory is actually reasonably common, but it's sort of bizarre because we're in it and you're watching it unfold. It's rare that a mass of people from so many different backgrounds and different interest groups can have such commentary on these things. If it's a bank, we can't really commentate on it because we're not in the industry, but we don't need to be in the industry. We're fans of it. So yeah, very, very interesting. Now, I want to switch gears in a second to the LIV 2024 schedule before we talk about the DP World Tour and the Sony event over on the PGA Tour this week and a couple of other bits. But Ben, I almost forgot to congratulate you. You had a little bit of news, didn't you? For anyone watching on YouTube, have a look at Ben's hat. For anyone listening, go over to YouTube, look at Ben's hat. Tell us a bit about it, mate. You've had a big win this week, and we're very proud of you, buddy.
Thanks, mate. So anyone that's been paying attention and will have noticed, this week I've announced a partnership. I'm very, very lucky that I'm getting my gear supplied to me now by Sub 70 and 11 Golf. So Sub 70 makers of drivers, irons, wedges. 11 Golf many of you will never have heard of 11 Golf. Now, 11 Golf are a completely different company. They are hybrids from 3 through to 9. So they've got a hybrid in all those different areas. So people are going to be using different hybrids. I'm going to do some great videos. My uncle's going to come on and do one. So my wife's uncle's going to come on and do one. Older guy, slower swing speed, get him on using an 8 hybrid, see how it goes. I was testing them out. It was great fun. But yeah, so I'm going to be using the 11 hybrids in 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to be using irons and wedges from Sub 70. So really excited. And also a putter reveal will come in a video very soon with me and Prev doing a putter reveal. But no, really, really flattered and proud really to have done this. I used to get my cricket gear for free through Gray Nichols and Duncan Fernley back in the day, and now I get my golf gear. But yeah, I love the Sub 70 gear. Before I signed up with them, we had a conversation and there was a discussion, and I used it for 6 months. I discussed this with Jay a long time ago. I said, I don't think I could sign up with someone to get free gear if I don't rate it. So I played it for, I say 6 months, is a slight exaggeration. I played it for 5 months. Decided, yeah, absolutely love it. Really enjoy it. So then was happy to sign up with it. So really excited by that. And thank you to Sub 70 for it. I even mentioned it in the podcast. We're going to do it. We got coming up in a minute later with Paul Wood, and we talk about different companies. I was actually saying about how great the Sub 70 irons are, because I don't use Ping irons. I do use Ping driver, but I was saying I use the Sub 70 irons in that. So yeah, pretty faithful to that. Really chuffed. Thank you for all concerned in doing that. And there'll be some fun content, and Mark and Jay, some fun giveaways. They give me some stuff to give away as prizes and things. So that'll be interesting.
We like that, my friend. Yeah, well done. We're really proud of you, mate. And it's all the hard work you put into helping the golfing community, certainly in the UK as well. It's nice to see. So well done, mate. And it's really interesting what you mentioned about the giveaways, the meetups. We are going to do much more of that through our fan zone, glugc.com/support. If you want to get involved over there, you can do that for $5 a month, which over here in the UK is about £3.60. So get on it per month. It's really, really worthwhile. You will get early access to all of that stuff. And then in our equipment corner a little bit later, we are going to be releasing that episode interview that Ben did with Paul Wood, the VP of engineering over at Ping. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be a separate video, so you can really get to it much easier. In the audio channel, in Spotify and Apple Podcasts and so on, it's going to be cut in to the end of this episode. So enjoy that. It's a deep dive, and big well done to Ben on the Sub 70 partnership. Now, Jay, we've got the LIV 2024 schedule. It's looking pretty good. I'm excited about the UK leg, hoping to get out there and get down there and just see as many people as we can, have a bit of fun down there. There's a few standouts in here, but I want to talk about, number one, are you going to come over to the UK? And number two, that date in April.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So obviously with the LIV schedule, I've been trying to figure out the events I'm going to attend. Got some conflicts kind of with work that I'm sort of trying to trying to sort out. I'm definitely trying to get over there to the UK for that event though. That's kind of my number one priority. I'm also trying to make it out to obviously the Doral event, which is obviously becoming a traditional event on the LIV schedule. I love Doral, the Blue Monster. I used to live in Miami. Played Doral a lot, practiced there a lot. Their practice facility is amazing. I really love it there. So yeah, I think that this schedule is setting up really, really interesting. Like I really like the sort of cadence that they have going here. I think that it's really sort of interesting how they have these like events scheduled where you have Mayakoba and then you have Vegas right after Mayakoba. Then you have a little bit of a break. Then you have Hong Kong and Jeddah, kind of another sort of their back-to-back weeks. And then you have Miami right before the Masters, which I got to say something about just comparing PJ Tour and LIV. I got to say that the Blue Monster Doral course is a much, much, much better tune-up for the Masters than the Valero Texas Open. It's like not even close. So I think that I've already gone on record to guarantee that a LIV player is going to win the Masters. It's not really going out on a limb at this point because there's so many elite players at LIV now. Like you look at all of the favorites to potentially win Augusta, like I probably say half or maybe more than half of those guys are over at LIV. So I don't really think that's going out on a limb, but you could pick between, Rahm and Koepka, Cam Smith, a bunch of other guys, DJ, there's so many guys, even Phil and Patrick Reed, like, I mean, they could easily win it too. So there's a lot of guys at LIV that can win. But yeah, the schedule's coming together pretty well. We still have a couple events at the end of the season that have been unnamed for a variety of reasons. Look, I wish that we didn't have this drama still with the PJ Tour, where all of the PJ Tour partners are sort of continuing to provide barriers to LIV to sort of finalize on the schedule. But it is what it is. So we obviously know we wanted to do Korea. It's not going to happen. So, and it's a direct tie into the PJ Tour, the reason why that's not happening. So, we'll have to see how the end of the schedule pans out. But yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a really solid schedule. I'm really happy with the events and yeah, trying to make it out to Miami and to the UK at a minimum. I was hoping for Vegas. That may not happen for me now. We'll have to see how that plays out.
The one thing that I find a little bit different, and it's not criticism of LIV, and I'm not fighting to say if things are right or wrong. There seems to be a big gap. 18th of August at Greenbrier. You think when we had the last event of the LIV season, in season 2, was the back end of October. I was in Orlando, so
yeah,
that was the 25th-ish of October.
Yeah, it's about that.
Yeah,
it's like 22nd when I think it ended.
Yeah, so 22nd, and the team event, the individual event was 2 weeks before, so that was the first week in October. I can't see that it's going to be the same, because if it is,
they're moving it up.
Yeah,
they're moving it up to September. Yeah,
you've got to feel it's going to be Greenbrier. Then you have 2 weeks the individual championship, which will be the last week in August, first week in September, and then the team championship, which will be the second or maybe at latest third week in September.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. The other thing we have to keep in mind, like I think those last 2 events are probably going to stay here in the United States, so that makes travel a little bit easier. But I think that they're allowing for a little bit more flexibility in case they want to potentially add an international one at the end. So
yeah,
that's why
I do think I do think there is a possibility they do Greenbrier, do an event in the US, and then there's 2 weeks after that individual championship, and they go set up shop overseas for a team championship. If they've brought it forward into September, that brings into play a British links course, Scotland or Ireland. That brings into play anything in sort of Spain and France. I'm not saying Le Golf National, but it brings into play some big European. You don't want to play, Mark. You and I have played. We've had nice days in October, but you don't want to be reliant. Look at the 2010 Ryder Cup at Celtic Manor, when it rained aggressively for 36 hours. You don't want to be in limbo. But by bringing it forward to mid-September, you've really got the opportunity to put something on outside of the warm Americas.
Yeah, I think there's two things there. I think the cadence, like you mentioned, Jay, is really interesting. I like that because I think with anything, especially in its third year, where people are starting to see, for example, the team aspect. I still have like 20% interest in the team aspect because I'm not invested in it. I'm not big into American sports. It's not something that I've, outside the Ryder Cup and Walk Cup and whatever else, just never really dug into it. So I think in order to get people interested, I think that momentum is really important. So those 2 back-to-back weeks, then just a little bit of time off, a couple of back-to-backs, time off, a couple of back. That's a lot better for me because I keep the momentum. And I know that a lot of people, the general golf fans up at the club, a few people that I speak to at other clubs, they feel very similarly because it feels very, very much a US thing. So I think that cadence will really work. What's interesting to me about that gap at the end, so after the last event prior to the 2 championships, I think if we put like the common sense hat on as well, we're expecting more things to happen, aren't we? Let's be honest. We're expecting agreements to happen. We're expecting announcements to happen for players. If players come, presumably they will need teams. Let's assume that 2 or 3 big sort of tentpole players come across over the next 9 months. They're going to need somewhere to play. Just feels as if I'm planning the schedule. I should really probably give myself a little bit of leeway just because of, even if for nothing else, just because of that. And I think what's quite interesting with this is as well that if you were to make some big signings midway through the golf season, if you were to make some big signings post-Masters, post-Open, US Open, whatever, there is absolutely nothing stopping you putting on one big flagship, one-off type of event, some sort of knockout, some sort of match play event that is completely separate to anything else. Get you guys.
I've got the idea. If they get Wyndham Clark, wait for it, they can have America versus rest of the world LIV edition. Oh my God, what a great Ryder Cup style event it would be. If they get Wyndham Clark, that gives them enough quality for America, the Americas. They can do the Americas, or they could do a 3-1 where they do America, Europe, and rest of the world. They've got so many options. It's so exciting. They could do that. They could.
It would be much better than the President's Cup at this point too.
I'm not getting into that, but yes, so probably is.
No, it would, because look, now you're able to. This is one of the biggest gripes that I've had about the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup is that it's always excluding parts of the world. So, like, why not have? I need to look at the rosters and sort of put that together, but U.S. or maybe North America versus the world. I mean, I think that could be a really intriguing. You could have like a Brooks versus Rahm thing. You can have like there's a lot of ways you can go. You could have DJ Cam Smith. Like there's a lot of ways you can go, and I think it would be pretty well balanced looking at some of the rosters. So I like where you're going there. That sounds really interesting. And I think, look, this is one of the exciting things about LIV is that it's so new. There's so many things that they can do. I mean, people have been looking at the last year and a half like, oh, that's how it's always going to be. And I promise you that's not how it's always going to be. They are still really sort of testing some of this stuff out. There's a lot of ideas that our players have, their principals, the folks behind the scenes of LIV. Like there's so many ideas that they have. It's just a matter of when and sort of what they actually want to implement. So that's one of the things that's really cool to me. where they have a huge advantage over the PGA Tour that leans into the legacy and tradition and doesn't really lend itself to that much creativity and flexibility. And that's one of the other things that I've been leaning into, that like, I'm really glad that we have this podcast where we can get these ideas out, because it's a really, really important thing that I feel like, look, Twitter's not for nuance. It just, it's not. So there's so many great ideas floating out there. It gets me really excited as a golf fan. And those are the things that like really excite me about LIV Golf in general.
3 years in, season 3 coming up. I have to admit, I'm getting the sense generally. So if I think about the casual golfer, like I said, let's use my club up here as an example. It's a Mackenzie course, which means it's full of people that love golf in a really traditional sense. That's it. It's that kind of course. Beautiful course. LIV over the last 18 to 24 months has just been this, it's all right. It's nice to see Brooks playing it. Obviously, the Rahm thing has really put it into the psyche of more people up there. But we know that tide is changing. We know that I'm seeing people talking about it more. I'm hearing people talking about it more. I think what is interesting, I'm hearing people talk about it in an integrated way. So it's not, did you see the PGA Tour? It's, we'll talk about golf and everything is fair game. It's not just one or the other, which I think is a really good sign. To that end, we're in season 3. One of the big sticking points, I think, for the most part, are these TV rights and the accessibility. Where's your head at on this one? Jay, I'll come to you first on this one, because I think you might have more insight from a US perspective, and then Ben obviously jump in anytime. But where are you at, and what's your sense of where LIV might be at when it comes to broadcast media? Not the YouTube stuff and not the CW even. Yeah. Generally getting this to the masses, to the PGA fans that tune in on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of one of the levels LIV still has to unlock. Look, LIV has obviously been doing a lot of things that are brand new to the golf space, and unfortunately, golf viewers are kind of creatures of habit. That's just how it's always been. Like here in the US, I know so many golf fans that, look, they want to sit on their couch on a Saturday and Sunday at 3:00. They want to turn on golf, and golf is on, whether it be CBS or NBC. Or Golf Channel in a lot of times. So that's sort of how fans are here in the United States. Now, if I'm LIV Golf and I know this, there's a few things strategically you could potentially do to, change that. I floated it out there that I felt like, one of the chess moves, and I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but I was talking about this, a year and a half ago. It's like, why wouldn't the PIF consider buying Golf Channel here in the United States? Like, it's certainly something like that would be like a chess move, and I'd love to see just Brandel Chambly just like squirm about that, though. And Eamon Lynch too. That'd be really, really interesting stuff. Now, I don't know if that's gonna actually happen, but it's like, if I'm LIV, it's like, I know that like one of the goals that I have is to get LIV in front of more eyeballs, and CW is one of those steps. I think that they're testing out the next couple years on CW, sort of see how that goes. Except with this merger, I can definitely see some doors opening to, these other really big networks here in the United States, where, like I talked about it in my solo podcast, how that's one of the really, really big assets that the PGA Tour brings to the table are these media rights and their TV contract. There could easily be a situation where you have a really big LIV event that's part of this sort of global series that they want to promote and sort of put out there on Front Street, put it on CBS, put it on NBC, put it on one of these really big channels, because I have already said, if you put LIV on one of those channels, the ratings are going to be comparable with any PGA Tour event, and if it's a LIV event that has all of the best players, it will do better than most PGA Tour events. So I think those are sort of the next steps that LIV has to get to. I don't know how long that's going to take. Obviously, the merger is going to tell us a lot about that, how fast this is actually going to happen. So those are kind of the next things that I kind of see happening with LIV here in the United States when it comes to a broadcast. But again, these are all sort of speculative, and we'll have to see what sort of happens here the next year.
I think what annoys me, like I don't disagree with you. I know that you and I have not got quite the same view on some of that. I think, but what annoys me is when you get people saying, "Oh well, they show it on an app." What you mean, like? I mean, like the NFL in the UK. So if you want to watch the NFL in the UK, or you want to watch it in Europe, yes, you can watch some of it on Sky Sports. If you want to pay 60 quid a month, 70 quid a month for Sky Sports, a typical package in the UK, you can watch the NFL. Or you can download the DAZN app, which is what I've done, and I can watch as much NFL as I want. I think it's £9 a month. Maybe it's £11. I can't remember. So why is it me watching NFL through an app correct and acceptable, but watching golf through an app? Oh, it's on YouTube. It's on. Oh, you can't take it seriously. It's on YouTube. What you mean? The most viewed media channel in the entire world. I read a report that you could take every single sports broadcast put together at one time, and it'll be 25-1 people watching anything on YouTube. No, not a sport, but that's the user base of YouTube. For people to just diminish LIV because it's on YouTube is bizarre. And also, let's look at the PGA Tour. How do they distribute their golf now, Jay? They use apps like Peacock and other things. Like, it's just, yeah, it just grates on me a little bit. That it's just such a weird thing to say.
For sure. And as someone that's consumed golf on apps here in the United States, like I promise people, the LIV Golf Plus app is far, far better than any of these other apps that we have here in the United States, between, Peacock and ESPN Plus and like all these other things. Like LIV Golf Plus is just a superior product in my personal estimation. So look, I want them, and I know LIV is always going to keep this in app, because I think that's like key to continue to unlock this sort of younger demographic. I just think at this point, you need to hit all four corners. You need to get as many sort of people viewing LIV as possible and sort of continue that sort of upward trajectory the next few years. And unfortunately, broadcasts here in the United States is still a really important thing. And it's something that at least it will be for the sort of foreseeable future in the near term. Long term, that may not be the case. So, but I'm talking more like post 2030, things could be totally different in this particular space. So again, we'll have to see how things play out there.
I do understand that the legitimacy question though around something. It's like I can put music out on Spotify. We three could put out our Backstreet Boys cover over on Spotify. Dead easy, super simple. We could stick it on YouTube, do what we want. Everyone would buy it. It'd be fantastic. We'd probably retire from doing this because it'd be that good. But a lot of people would still say, you've not got a record deal though, have you? Which is surprising. But that's the thing. I think it's the broadcast media is still the benchmark. And I think if you're right, Jay, if you consider that the job of LIV is to get into as many eyeballs as possible, and if the shtick around let's grow the game is genuinely a target, then broadcast has you can't grow the game by discounting the baseline, and the baseline is broadcast. So yeah, I understand your perspective on that, Ben, but I do see the flip side of that, where it's a legitimacy thing.
Yeah,
it's very
putting
much
it's putting it out in a more traditional way. I know,
and frictionless as well. Though it's I don't have to sign up
on your TV. It's there.
Yeah, it's there.
I do get it. Of course, I get it, and I understand it. I just think that to belittle it because it's using an app is bizarre. When the NBA has an app, the NFL has an app, the NFL transfers their rights to other people's apps. It just seems that's the bit that grates me. Would I like to see it get a big TV deal? Yeah, of course would, for accessibility. That's the biggest problem. And again, if I wanted to be a bit critical of LIV, people don't know how to get it. That's the problem.
That's the huge thing.
I think
the
a lot of people,
massive.
I think a lot of people don't understand how to view LIV. They might be able to, but I'm so used to turning my TV on, it's not on there. So, well, have you got an Amazon Fire Stick? Yeah. Well, just download the LIV app. Oh, I can't be bothered. And it's like, oh my God, that's one step. All you've got to do is you've already got the tech either in your TV or in your Fire Stick. All you've got to do is download the app. That, as you say, Mark, that's the friction point. That's the barrier to entry. That could be overcome with a deal. But equally, it could be overcome by people just wanting to overcome it.
Well, that's the thing, and so I think that comes back to the product as well. It's got to be compelling for more people. So it's compelling right now for the nucleus of fans. I think what you do over season 3 is you add another layer of people being compelled by it, the more casual viewer, and then another layer season 4 and 5 and 6, and suddenly there's this critical mass, which then leads to broadcast because the numbers stack up, and suddenly I don't have to log in. So it's, I don't have to plug my Fire Stick in, go to the App Store, download the app, sign in, fire up a QR code, create a password, whatever else. There's none of that. So this is part of the journey. I mean, you see it with everything. You see it. Look at the darts. We saw that in the UK. Luke Littler has a stormer. Suddenly the darts is all over the news. It's on Sky Sports Ultimate HD. When's it ever on the darts? Ever on the prime time Sky Sports channel in the UK? Very, very rarely compared to other sports like soccer and so on. So same sort of thing, compelling enough. Now, let's shift gears a little bit. Remember, we are going to switch out. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can go and check out that interview with Ping's VP of Engineering, Paul Wood. And if you're listening via audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or glugc.com, we're going to cut that interview in to the end of this episode. But we're going to finish up with a couple of tours. DP World Tour, the Dubai Invitational, where the man Tommy Fleetwood absolutely pipped Rory McIlroy at the post. But we can't discount the fact that Rory, I like to call it pulled a mark, snap hooked it into the water straight away. So we're going to talk about that, and obviously the Sony as well, because we had a very interesting winner when we consider everything that's gone on over the last year. So you guys, did you watch the Dubai Invitational? Jay, I know you're a big Rory fan.
Yeah, people come to me for the anti-Rory comments for sure. I know people on Twitter were sort of surprised that I was more supportive of Rory than I usually am. Look, I need to be very, very clear about this. Like, I am firm but fair in my critiques. This is not something where I'm gonna body bag Rory from here until the end of time. Like, I've been following him from the beginning of his career. Like, I'm one of those people that can actually critique his game because I know his game inside and out. So there were definitely sort of 3 things that sort of happened that final round that were sort of cause for alarm and concern, especially when it comes to the major season, because there's these things that seem to sort of pop up at various times where it's like, not sure if his mental game is sort of all the way there in order to like actually win a major here in the next year. Like, I'm not sure. Like, he made a couple crucial, really poor swings with 4 irons. Like, second round, he hits a 4 iron in the water. He makes a quadruple bogey. A final round, 4 iron, pulls it left, hits it in the water on 6. He winds up making bogey. And then obviously 18, he's trying to hit a big swooping draw because he wanted to carry this bunker that's on the right side of the fairway. He winds up overcooking it, goes in the water, makes a bogey. He makes bogey again. These things add up. Like, if you start to like analyze this and you're like, man, if he had just like eliminated those mistakes, he probably would have won by 5, 6, 7 shots. Like, he was clearly the best player in that particular field. Like, he should have won this tournament. And there were some bad things there for sure, but there was a lot of good stuff. Like, I think that his wedge game is dialed in. I think his wedge game looked probably as good as I've seen it for a long time. Like, he was really, really impressive, and he was actually making a fair amount of putts outside of that.
Best I've seen his short game in a long time.
Yes. Outside of that three putt from 2 feet, which was definitely not a good look, but I also think when you get on some of these greens, Bermuda greens, where you have, these little subtle breaks, I just think that I compared it to Jordan Spieth at Kapalua. Like, he just like Overreads putts. He's sort of his speed on shorter putts. He's just like hitting it through any break that there is, and then he winds up 3-putting from 2 feet on fast greens. Like, it is what it is. I don't think that was necessarily like a choke or anything like that, because trust me, if Rory McIlroy chokes, I will be the first one out there on Front Street saying that he did. I don't see this necessarily as that, because this one felt a little different than some of the other ones that I felt like were a little bit more, you could sort of put in that sort of choke category. I think that he played really well. I just think it's one of those things, like, it's very difficult to win any event throughout professional golf. It's just not easy to do. Tommy Fleetwood said it in his sort of trophy presentation, and he posted about it on social media. Like, winning's just very, very difficult, and you have to do, you not only have to do all these things well, you also have to not make the critical errors, which is something that it's the reason why Augusta National is such a great test. That back 9 at Augusta, there are so many places where you just have to not make critical errors, especially if you're in the lead. That's something that every Rory McIlroy fan out there needs to keep in mind. Like, when he gets to the Masters, there's so much scar tissue now that just creeps up in these events. It's going to be really interesting to see how he plays the next 3 months. If he learns from this and he's like, look, this is something that happened, I'm going to put it in the past, and he comes out and wins this week in the Dubai Desert Classic, like, hey, that's a win. So I think we'll just have to see how things play out. But yeah, there was some good stuff. There was some really bad stuff. And we'll have to see how he rebounds here in the next few weeks. But I think that he's going to be fine. I think he's playing well. So
yeah, it seems that way. And he mentioned that he tweaked his schedule as well. He was talking about that on the podcast that he did with Gary Neville that we talked about when he sort of publicly did the 180 on LIV. He was talking about just sitting down with his team, tweaking the schedule, looking at how he tends to peak like a month before the Masters and then again later on in the year, and just looking at how he might be able to shift that up. So very, very interesting times. But I think it was credit to Tommy as well. Tommy gets a rap for being a bit of a choker on certainly on the last day when he's got a lead. But to his credit, regardless of what Rory did, he's still birdie. He still played very, very well. He did so well with that one. And it was nice to see them both supporting each other as well. You know, you could tell the last Ryder Cup that they played on seemed to have forged a bit of a bond there. So really, really interesting to see that one. Who came last, Ben, on the Dubai Invitational?
Was it in Ken Whalen? Ken Whalen? I can't remember.
Ken Whalen. Ken really Whalen. Quick about Ken Whalen. Yeah, he's the general manager at the Grove. This is which is Michael Jordan's course down in Jupiter, Florida. Look, this is one of those sort of golf deep state invites that sort of happens. Like, I know several members at the Grove, which is part of the reason why I know who he is, and like I know sort of some of the backstory behind why he got invited. So you just have to look into who are some of the members at the Grove, who runs this particular DP World Tour event. Those relationships, it's very clear he got into this through his relationships with the people that run the event in Dubai. Luckily, the OWGR tweaked their points so that everybody in the very bottom sort of 10 to 15 of this field is not getting OWGR points, because that would have been a really bad look, and that would have made me really, really mad. So I'm glad that he's not getting points for finishing. He literally finished like 72 strokes behind Tommy Fleetwood, like crazy. Didn't break 80 the entire time. Look, I know he's a good player, but it's like,
Jay, none of this DP World Tour got this wrong. I don't care whether he's the best friends with Jesus Christ himself, right? There are players who played on the European Tour and grind, and we had one of them on here as a guest. Who all they want is to get an invitation to these events for a tour they've supported for 15, 20 years, yeah? Because they get guaranteed money. Ken earned €7,288 for turning up, finishing DFL 53 or 58 over. It's absolutely criminal. I'm glad Ken had a nice time. That's good for Ken. But what about the 25, 30 golfers that didn't get on their invitational list, that rely on this money to make money for their families, to pay their caddies, to pay their jobs? Because some bloke gets an invite because he's mates with Jordan. Now, I love MJ. Christ, I will never not pick MJ over LeBron. He is the greatest basketball player of all time. I'm an MJ homer. I got 2 pairs of Jordan's golf shoes. But just because you're Jordan's mate doesn't mean you should be able to take money out the mouth of a family for a European Tour stalwart. And I don't just mean Stu who came on our show. I mean any of the people, first reserve, second reserve, third reserve, they earned that spot in their loyalty to the tour, and it was given to some mate of someone else. It's disgusting. Let's clip that out. Man. We've lost your mic, Jay. We've lost your mic.
Sorry about that. This gets me a little fired up too, because look, every single big event, a professional event, has these sponsors invites that like could literally be given to anyone. So like everyone that like slagged off, Chase Koepka and like slagged off James Piot and like the Siwon Kim, the guys at the bottom of LIV, like. Every single tour has these. This has been something going on for forever. There's been favoritism for certain players, and it is what it is. It isn't really fair, but it's like it is what it is too. Like this is a new event on the European Tour schedule. The people that run it are very close to Rory McIlroy. I'm sure Rory got a very, very hefty appearance fee for playing in this event. And look, it just is what it is. Like, I wish this is something that could be sort of figured out. But it's like, look, as long as there's people running these events that want certain players in their events, that's just how it's going to be. It's not fair, but it's like, really golf isn't fair either. So,
Mark, before we go, I've done it right. I've done the LIV team event into
We're
team
not going
event.
yet, mate. We've got shit to talk about.
I'm excited though. I want to get it out.
This guy's wild, Jay. We need to get rid of him. I'm gonna get half a sandwich if we sell this guy out, and now we'll take 50 cents, quarter each. We'll be fine.
Do they not call that an open sandwich?
No, they do. They do these days, don't they? One of those deconstructed sandwiches that you pay like
Just
double the price for.
Right. Rest of the world team: Cam Smith, Louis Houston, 3 8-man teams. Rest of the world, Europe and USA. So rest of the world, Cam Smith, Louis, Munoz, Neiman, Ortiz, Mito, Aniban and Dean. That's the rest of the world team. Strong. European team, Rahm, Garcia, Peters, Shikara, Puge, Bland, Casey, Poulter. Hear me out. I ain't playing a team event in match play, but not having Ian Poulter. If he's available, he's playing. He's on the plane. He's coming.
100%.
USA, Bryson, Brooks, DJ, Gooch, Reed, Clark, Varner. And then you get a real pause to who takes that 8th spot. I've given it to Chucky 3 Sticks because he did have a good year last year. You could argue that Tringale finished better. You could argue that Bubba's got a bit of flair, or Phil or Matt Wolf if he comes back to his normal form. But that 8th spot went to Chucky 3 Sticks. Please tell me, LIV execs, please be listening, that the middle of October, you're going to do an international team event. I'm so excited.
So wait, you're thinking 3 teams of 8 rather than, I thought you were going to do 2 teams of 12 and just do sort of USA or sort of North America versus the world. So you're thinking 3 teams.
Yeah, I think you could have a super strong team if you combined Europe and the rest of the world, but I'd argue that would be so strong. Let's say you'd go Rahm, Shikara, Puge, Peters, Smith, Oosthuizen, Neiman, Mito. You've got that Europe, America versus the rest of the world. The rest of the world's just too strong.
No, about that. I wouldn't say that. I think we could definitely do. I think that the U.S. team. Look, you got a U.S. team that's like got DJ, Patrick Reed, Brooks Koepka, Bryson. Like, I mean, come on. Like, you could put that team and like pretty much anyone and anyone else on that team, and they're going to be pretty good. So. I think there's a lot of different ways they can go, but we'll have to see if that's something that comes about.
Where it really becomes different is if you do 2 teams of 12, because the USA doesn't have that depth that Europe and the rest of the world would have. That really becomes quite spicy for having 2 teams. Right, sorry, Mark, I've hijacked it, but anyone who's watching on YouTube will have realised I was typing while you two were talking, because I was desperately trying to work this out.
It's not like you to hijack either, mate. It's not. It's part of your charm. It's why people like you so much, because you're so. What's the word? Fiery. You're a fiery character, man.
You
That's
should
what
see
we
some
like.
of the replies I get. Not everyone likes me.
Oh, mate, trolls don't exist. We know that. Now we are going to wrap in just a couple of moments, but a couple of things just to remind you of. Number one, we are cutting in, if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or at glugc.com, we're going to cut in that fantastic interview that Ben did with Ping's VP of Engineering, Mr. Paul Wood. And it's a really interesting interview for the geeks amongst us, which we all are, inevitably, because we're all into golf. So check that out. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's a separate video. So just in this very same playlist, check that out. It'll be right next to this particular one that you're watching right now. And remember those meetups that we're putting out, they are going to start to be trickled out into the world. First and foremost, to our fan zone members. You can get involved from just $5 a month at glugc.com/support. And we're going to wrap up then, boys, by saying a massive congratulations to one Grayson Murray, who, like all good golfers, took the advice of just play better and went and won nearly $1.5 million. So, fair play, Grayson Murray. What do you make of that one, Jay?
Yeah, it was great. I'm gonna cede most of my time here to Ben. I did watch the last sort of few holes of this. I was definitely rooting for Grayson Murray. Look, it's very public at this point that Grayson Murray and Rory had a bit of a confrontation at one of these sort of player player meetings with the PGA Tour board right after the merger was announced, and I heard that these two almost came to blows in some ways. Look, Grayson Murray is a very fiery guy. I respect that. I like that. And Rory just like said the wrong thing to piss him off, and I don't think he was having it. And I'm 100% taking Grayson Murray in that matchup for sure. But yeah, I think it was really interesting. I was glad to see Grayson Murray win. Sony Open, it's a legacy event. It's never really had that strong of a field, so it's not like Kapalua where I'm expecting to have all the best players there. Like this was kind of one of those, second or third tier PGA Tour events. So it was a good tournament though. I enjoyed the last few holes in the playoff.
And Grayson Murray also had a massive row with Kevin Na. Grayson Murray does seem like the type of guy who can pick a fight in an empty room. Look, well done on the win. Great to see him back getting a win. I like to think it's nice for anyone to get their win in, but excuse me. Keegan Bradley doing Aimpoint over a 2-foot putt. Just put it in the hole, mate. Literally stood over a putt for 17 seconds.
Yeah, but look at Rory, mate.
If
you should
Rory
be coaching everyone.
He wouldn't have missed.
Yeah, I love this. Look, that is like the opposite end of the spectrum. What a week for that. I absolutely agree with you as well, mate, because you feel like just saying to Rory, just hit the thing, mate. So I'm with you on it. But in the week that Rory did that, it's just hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, I'm an Aimpoint guy, so I will defend Aimpoint. Some people take it too far. I can completely agree, but it's like you can do Aimpoint in a very, very small amount of time and not negatively impact time.
I like the way you've all bought into this. Sorry, you've all bought into his Aimpoint. This guy made it up himself to charge you a boatload of cash. Like it's rubbish. Just putt the ball. I've said it before. The best putters in the world get over the ball with a normal grip, hit it in the hole. If you've got anyone who's got a different grip or holds it in a weird way, gets their fingers up, they're not naturally good putters. I know they're trying to find a way, but the best putters who just got over the ball, looked at it, hit it in the hole. I know I'm being a bit inflammatory, Jay, and it's just to wind you up. Right.
Yeah.
Keegan Bradley, that was ridiculous.
He gets a partnership, gets his new hat. Thinks he's Jack Nicklaus.
He got over a ball and hit it. Didn't see Jack getting his fingers up and counting off different steps. And
you've changed, mate.
If Jack was putting on greens, if he was putting on green speeds that were 12, 13 on the stimp, he probably would have had to figure something else out too. So it's just it's a different generation. Look, you have to get some advantages wherever you can, and I think that feeling the line with your feet is a huge advantage. Like, it's totally changed the way that I read putts. So, for what it's worth.
Right. I've had enough to talk about Aimpoint. For what it's worth, I don't like Aimpoint. I like golf to be quicker. A good game is a quick game. Keegan Bradley, don't do that again. It's ridiculous. I love Keegan. I said this before, I love him, but that's ridiculous. Carl Yuan's drop. I found myself agreeing with a fried egg and no laying up for the first time. Hell must be freezing over. There's a video of the ball going over the spectators' sponsor stand into the middle of the world, off the edge of the world, sorry. And he was given a free drop. Like, we couldn't locate the ball. Well, if you can't locate the ball is lost. Like,
yeah,
where's the free drop? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that sponsors area, it didn't have special privileges. There's no local rule. Even if it's red staked, he's still going to have one shot. It was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I don't understand that rule. And it could have, because he was right in the hunt, it could have changed the whole tournament. One last shout out. Is Russell Henley got one of the nicest, most underrated swings ever?
I'm not a big Russell Henley guy. I don't like his swing
either. The tempo on him is just lovely.
Okay, look, it's just like, it's very subjective. I have swings that I like that maybe other people don't. So look, I'll give you Russell Henley. It's fine. I'm not a huge fan of his swing, but it is what it is.
And lastly on that event, it's a shame to see so few big names in it. We're not going to hash that up. We know what's happened. If we look back to 3 years ago, how much better would that event have been if Jay Monahan had said, yes, you're welcome to play on LIV and on the PGA Tour, but you can't play in our top events, but you can play in 4 other events on the PGA Tour. I'm not saying that anything else. I'm not trying to be inflammatory. I'm just saying, imagine if 5 or 6, the big names on LIV, had played in that event because they were able to. That was how Jay got his big players there, was by letting people play in some of the lower events on the totem pole. You had 3, 4, 5 big name LIV players there. Would have been a completely different event. Just going to say it.
Maybe
certainly something that they could do for sure.
Yeah, maybe one for the future there. Great idea, man. We are going to stick a pin in it right there. Stick around if you're on the audio-only version, because we are going to cut in that fantastic interview with Paul Wood, VP of Engineering at Ping. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. You can find that video right next to this one on our channel. Ben, Jay, always a pleasure, boys. We'll see you next week for some more of this good stuff.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Same, yeah, it was a great show as always. Thank you guys. Just a quick shout out to Nike and TaylorMade. I'm still waiting for my partnership money to come through. I know Nike, you're reducing your golf footprint. I know you have all these economic indicators saying that consumer spending is going down, and that's why you're reducing your footprint. But look, if you want to send me a few dollars, feel free.
Check is in the post. I'm absolutely sure Phil Knight has probably posted it himself. Now, we'll be back next week with another episode of Golf Lovers United. If you want to tell your friends about this, you can do so by letting them know they can listen in their podcast app of choice over on YouTube or at glugc.com. And if you want those meetup invites, if you want just access to things earlier than anyone else, that's something that we're going to start to roll out very, very soon. So you can get involved in our fan zone at glugc.com/support. And until next week, enjoy yourself, enjoy your golf, and look after each other. Bye-bye for now.